midway through the last episode of the first season. I may have started binging.
Told you it was gonna get you.
I forgot just how much I love Carl Urban.
Oh God, he
With
is just insane in that fucking show. Oh my
he's
God,
marvelous. And I realized the reason that I had avoided it so much, and it was because of, I think I had misinterpreted the trailers. With like where your protagonists and antagonists were, and it's swapped from what I realized it would be. I'm like, oh, okay, I can get behind this now. Thank you. But what the hell? You should have warned me about the dolphin.
He kind of did.
he kind of did.
Did you? Because
Yes.
I was relatively prepared for. Okay, after the first episode, I was prepared for the amount of chunky special effects that would happen. And I was like, okay, so this is the level that I'm working at. That's cool. But that particular scene, I was like, my first thought was, oh no, the windshield.
You know it's coming. You know it's coming.
Like, there's no happy ending. There's no happy ending.
There's no.
Are you kidding? With the boys, there is no happy ending.
And that's the thing. And it's going through, and I think when everything culminates, I'm trying to take spoilers for anyone who is like me and is often years late to watching stuff. But at the culmination of the sequence of events, I'm sitting at the computer and watching it and taking care of stuff here. I kind of just like jumped back and audibly was like, holy shit! And I was like, okay. But this is still my brand of humor, so I'm going to keep watching. What does that say about me? So yeah, I will probably, I'll easily finish the first season today, and I am going to have to kind of dole out episodes because I have got to get back to work next week.
Work? Wait a minute.
What is that? What is
It's that thing that brings in paychecks. I kind of have to do that.
So I think we can say that all three of us are fans of The Boys. So if you haven't caught it yet, you probably should, because holy shit, just be prepared for violence, sex, and gore.
Yes. And
inappropriate things with animals.
that too. But what I was going to say is, not just inappropriate things with animals, dear God. Not that I'm going to kink shame anybody, but I'll just say gills and leave it at that, because that was just like,
yeah, that was disturbing.
that was problematic.
Anyway, that notwithstanding. Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Dead Robot Society. I am Paul E. Cooley. Joining me today, Veronica Jaguar and Terry Mixon, my wonderful co-hosts. And I guess I got to ask the question: how the hell are you, V? You're not in some strange location.
No. We made it home and got stuff mostly unpacked. I think there's probably still a bag of like toiletries or whatever that hasn't been put away, and it can stay where it is. It's not hurting anybody. But I'm home, and now it's time to get back to work next week. So we start all over again. Yay! Yeah.
That's usually how that works.
Unfortunately. But yeah, so pickups and more books, and I still have to sign the contract that's sitting in my inbox and send it back. But that's kind of cool. So yeah, otherwise pretty good. I, however, do not have a small, fluffy cat persistently grooming me right now. So, Terry, how are you doing?
I'm very clean right now.
I mean, if you can speak.
What are you doing?
Terry is just back from his Huff 12-step program, and
It's not working.
it's not working.
Ooh.
It's
She
not
loves
working.
me. What can I say?
That's a spoiled, fluffy baby.
It is indeed. She is not happy about the new kitten in the house. She hasn't seen him but a couple of times, but she is not pleased.
Maybe
Not
she's
pleased.
worried that she will no longer be the floofiest creature in your house.
You know, that could be it.
It could be Floof Wars.
Floof Wars. You know, if somebody was looking for titles for books, we just throw them out everywhere. They're just
Me
all
too.
over the place.
Obviously,
I wish that book existed.
Obviously, we need to go ahead. If we're going to have like a magical house, it would be Floofmore.
Apart from making really terrible puns and thinking they're clever, how the hell are you, Terry? What have you been up to?
I think that was very clever.
Dead air, dead air,
Just-
dead air, dead
I was
air.
waiting for your response then, but no. Since you're just going to let it sit, I'll take that as agreement with my point. So thank you.
Yeah, you're delusional, but that's nothing new. How the hell are you, Terry?
I feel like a human being again. It's nothing like spending at least 3 or 4 days recovering from the writing binges and getting yourself back on track. All I've done over the last week is I edited the stuff that was sent back to me and got it to the beta readers. Other than that, I haven't done any writing. I'll start writing the book tomorrow.
What a slacker.
I needed it. I was
I
just
know you
wiped
did.
out.
I know you did. You looked terrible last week.
You need-
That's
But,
not being offensive,
other than
that's
that-
just you look bad.
I don't know, a little bit of trepidation of going into this final book because, you know, got 15 books now on the line. I've got to close everything out and make everybody happy at the end.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
I don't have a lot of trepidation, just a little bit. You know, this is the first series I've actually brought to a conclusion. So, even though I've written the final book in the arc of the Empire of Bones saga, I haven't finished it yet. So this is the first one where I've actually finished it. Does that count? Does that make any sense?
It does.
Yes,
Because
it
you're
does.
not going back to that world. So you're effectively really just closing the chapter, and then it's like, yep, that's on the shelf. We're not touching it again.
Probably not. Not for a long time anyway. Whereas Empire of Bones, I have anticipated that I'll go back into the universe and do other things there. And probably with the same characters. This, maybe, probably not. We'll see. Don't know yet. I am so hyped about getting into the new series that I just got to get this book done.
We're back to where you were last book.
Hmm?
But at least it's no longer the penultimate. It's the ultimate. It is the ultimate. Well, if you have anything else to report?
I can't think of anything, no. Everything's pretty copacetic here. Oh, little girl had to come back home because Donna's daughter is allergic to cats. She found out.
Oh.
So she's in the gun room right now, and I'm bringing her out on occasion to put into a crate that I've got here in the room. See it over my shoulder here a little bit? See? So I bring her out so that she can see the boys, and the hissing and growling commences because she does not like cats.
Interesting.
She was very tolerant of the dogs. Does not like cats at all.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting.
But I figured it's going to be a couple of week process of bringing her out every day and having her spend time out here and growling and hissing at people, mainly so the boys will get used to her. Maybe not so that she'll get used to them, but
Right.
just to try to minimize the disaster. I've decided we're going to keep her upstairs because there are fewer cats up here, and maybe that will help things. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Well, I went on a bender.
Drinking.
More
In between
dangerous.
a few inconvenient trips to various places that were required because of old people, I literally taught myself a couple of different things and went ahead and created that application that I talked about 2 weeks ago, and it's now up in GitHub. I put a post in the general a while ago. Nobody's looked at it. Nobody's going to use it except me, but hell, it's done. Of course, now I'm looking at doing it in Rust so I can make use of EPUB checker. So I could add real EPUB validation, which most people do not have. And they rely upon Amazon to do it. If you're not going to Amazon's marketplace, or if they're not the only one, you have no guarantee that you've got a valid ebook unless you check. So I was learning Rust yesterday and today.
I just needed to ask this question to clear it up. You didn't have to actually shoot anybody to get it to work, did you?
No.
Oh, ouch. Ouch, Terry. That's a harsh and a deep cut and very esoteric. I am.
Basically, it's Terry. It's a disaster area running to a wall.
Okay, so do you even understand the reference, Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
The movie with Alec Baldwin.
Yes.
The movie Alec Baldwin directed or starred in, whatever.
And shot and killed a cinematographer in.
Yes. That was terrible.
Is it too soon? I don't think so. I think it's okay.
It's very bad. Very bad. Very bad.
Hey, no one's accused me of having good taste.
Boy, that's for damn sure. Xander says, what is a valid ebook? A valid ebook is a zip file that corresponds to the EPUB standard 2.0 or 3.01 RC.
So does the stuff that oh god, Vellum put out, is that a valid EPUB file?
Yes. Anything Vellum puts out is a valid EPUB file. There's probably several other things. I'm sure Scrivener creates a valid EPUB file as well. There's a lot of different utilities to create that. I don't know about creating one from Word. I have no idea. But there's a lot of different tools to use.
Anything.
I'm sorry, what?
Said I wouldn't trust Word to create anything.
Oh.
A mess. I trust it to commit a mess.
Right. If you just make an EPUB file, it's not the same thing. I guess I don't understand what you mean. An EPUB is really a zip file with a certain number of files in certain places that reference other files, and that's about it. Underneath the covers, it's all HTML, just like the web is, or should be, for detailing how the pages work, and usually the editors hide that from you. They handle it, and they handle everything like Scrivener's RTF, or text format for everything that it does. And then you have other formats too. So just kind of depends. But there's plenty of utilities out there to make them. Way back in the day before 2.0 standard, I made a Ruby EPUB just from the command line, so I could keep all my text in all my chapters in different text files, raw text files. And then I could run a Ruby command that would create the ebook from those text files. It was pretty easy to do, actually. It wasn't really all that hard. So anyway, there's stuff out there. Like I said, I created this thing so I could update multiple EPUBs at the same time, assuming they correspond. There's always some edge cases that people are probably going to call me about and go, why can't I use it for this? Well, you know what? You can go ahead and fork it and create that feature by yourself, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's more or less what I've been up to, but I'm getting back into Extinction and get rolling on that. I just got a couple more things to do. So that leads us to today.
Today.
Extinction. Yes, today's topic. Terry almost spoiled it because he's a bastard. Look at this cat. What have you done to this cat? Listeners, if you could see this. Oh God.
This is a mackerel tabby who has no F's left to give, no fluffs yet to give.
That's my daddy, and no one else can have him. Yeah,
pretty much. It essentially, if the sassy floof was cleaning Terry, the Houdini nut job is using him as a very, very clean easy chair.
Actually, this is not Houdini. This is Leo.
Leo. Oh, I'm sorry. Another psycho.
Houdini is a mackerel cat downstairs.
Ah, okay.
Mackerel tabbies.
Houdini is less psycho than Leo. Leo is more
back
bitey.
to my point, trying to.
Houdini has more brain cells than Leo.
Oh boy.
Like I said, Leo's more bitey. Yeah, so, yeah, sorry, cats.
Anyway, may I continue?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I'm afraid now. Very afraid.
You should be.
Yeah, I should be. Yeah, you should be. I am rocketing toward getting Extinction finished. Terry is about to begin, which Extinction is the last book in the Black series. I don't know what the word is for a 6-book series. My Latin's off.
Septology?
Is it septology?
No.
I'm guessing. Wait a minute. Sept is 7. Hexology? Hexology?
Sounds.
Hexology, sextology.
Sounds bad. Anyway.
I'm not sure what it is.
We're kind of up against putting these two things to bed. As in Terry's case, he's closing off these kind of arcs and moving on to basically restarting the series in somewhere else with the same characters.
The one that I'm closing now?
Yeah.
No, I'm wrapping it up and it'll start a brand new series in a brand new world with brand new characters. Totally unrelated. No linkage whatsoever.
Totally unrelated, he says. Let me fix the volume here. Okay, fine. So you're closing off the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm closing off my universe. They are both ending.
The end is nigh.
The end is nigh. Now you have 15 books. You have 16 books, I guess, total, to close up, to tie up any loose ends.
Those that I can.
Those that you can. There's going to be some that are left dangling by either on purpose or because you couldn't chase them down or you just don't have the heart to cut them. And that's fine. There are always going to be some loose ends because, you always need a way back in, even if you're saying you won't come back.
I'll never do that book again unless they offer me lots of money. Money.
Yeah. Money. So,
maybe I should throw Admiral Romanoff off Reichenbach Falls.
Okay, Sherlock. What are the issues that you've got that you think the biggest issues you have to deal with?
Honestly, I've got to wrap up 2 major plot lines that are going: an alien invasion and a coup that overthrew the government. And I've got to do those simultaneously in the same book. That's a little complicated.
No.
Because
really?
they are 2 completely separate, unrelated problems.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I have no fear about doing it. I am not afraid of closing this book off. I have an idea of what I'm going to be doing. I'm splitting half the characters off, point of view wise, to handle one problem and the other half to handle the other problem. I've done it before. I can do it again. It does not frighten me. But the idea that I might miss something that the readers will be like, but now I'm so dissatisfied because plot A did not get solved. Oh, woe is me. That's a bit intimidating to want to please as many people as you can without going overboard trying to close off too much. And I've never done it before, so this is an experience.
I don't know if you have to close out everything.
I don't intend to close out everything, but I need to provide the basic goal I guess I wanted to get to with this subject is I've got to provide a satisfactory conclusion to the series for the majority of readers. And that means needing to select what can be closed off, what needs to be closed off, what I can let run, and what it's better to let run, because sometimes it's better to leave things unresolved for certain things. Yes. But you got to end up the game with the people that read 16 books going, that was amazing. Do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Tim says resolving plots in collision format and then the correct order is vitally important.
In collision format, in the correct order. I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure how I would apply it to what I'm doing either.
Well, if it's in the correct order, there's some things that it does not make sense to resolve. Now, I have not caught up with your series. But if you said there's an alien invasion and there's a government coup, just by categorizing conflicts, to me, it would make sense to wrap up your government coup issue before you tackle the alien invasion, because then you have a united force dealing with your aliens. However, you could do it the other way, but I'm saying that might not make sense, because then a battle could open up more problems.
I'm going to be doing it in the reverse order of what you had originally said, because ironically, the alien invasion is easier to resolve than the coup. They're both the final battle and the coup are going to be centered at Earth, and solving the problem in space before having to deal with the problem on the ground makes more sense to deal it in that order. Because if I solve the coup first, it doesn't really add anything to dealing with what's going on in space, because the alien invasion has pretty much thrashed all the other ships that could fight it anyway. So I've got no drive to resolve that one first.
Okay.
Like I said, I've got a decent idea of what I need to do in my head. I'm not afraid of the process. Amazingly, after writing 43 novels, I think I may understand how this works to a degree, so I'm going to just jump in and see what happens, and I'm going to bet that it comes out okay. We'll find out. But it's something that not a lot of people talk about. They talk about books, how to open books, how to close books. They never really talk about how you close out a series, and I thought that was something that we should address.
Well, a lot of people don't necessarily want to close out a series, because some people enjoy a world and characters enough that they want to keep reading and enjoying it. So, I mean, that's why a lot of people write, standalone. If it's not just a series, it's still in the same world. So you'll have standalone interconnected books that are written in the same universe or town, or focus on the same, set of locations, and then characters wind up coming from, secondary to primary and back. But it's comfortable. Matt says, I'm going to jump in and see what happens. Again, something that doesn't work well with the black. No, jumping in and seeing what happens, you will be greeted by the smell of burning bacon and a lot of sizzling and probably a lot of pain. But only for a little while.
Oh, I have such marvelous things to show you.
No, it's I have such sights to show you.
Ah, there you go. I never actually watched the movie. I just remember the trailer.
Yeah. Well, it was a seminal movie at the time. Even as goofy and dated as it is, it was very seminal at the time. Big deal.
Now, there was something that you had said there that I was going to respond to, and I had now forgotten what it was because I sidetracked myself.
Do you hate it when that happens?
I'm old. I'm used to it by now.
So then the question becomes, why are you ending the series?
Oh, we were talking about ending series. That Veronica was talking about ending the series. Mm-hmm. And there's a point of diminishing returns with an ongoing series. If you make a series too long, the readership falls off because people look at it and they go, I don't want to commit that kind of time.
Yep.
And so while you can certainly have an ongoing series, it works best if it's episodic rather than a continuing storyline. Right. I like Nora Roberts' J.D. Robb series, In Death, has 68, 69 novels in it at this point. So it's proof that you can keep having an iteration, a book, coming in there, But that's very episodic. When that book is over, there's very little that carries over to the next book. Just, things in our personal life that are developing. Mm-hmm. All the other things, you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, every book is almost a reset. Unless you've got like an underlying plot that kind of is carrying, maybe there's something that dragged the characters together and it's not something they can resolve for multiple books or whatever, and it's not the driving force. It just happened to grab them together. You end the series when they have to face that, whatever that is, in my head. That's how I would do that if I were going to write the episodic. X-Files tried to do that and really fucked it up. They had a really good chance to do it well, and Chris Carter screwed the pooch, both with that and Millennium. He really did Millennium dirty. I love that series. Anyway, that notwithstanding, if episodic ends, you're parking everybody. Mm-hmm. You're parking the people because the plots, you've gone through the plots, you've done what they are, but basically the characters have changed over the time and everything else, but it's really kind of static at the same time. Episodics basically have that reset capability where there are certain things that are canon that you cannot do, but if you've already conquered that plot and you're doing Monster of the Week, the rules have changed. That's it. The monster has changed. The overall scheme of are the characters fit together and the pattern of how the story works, that hasn't changed.
The series that I'm doing, it involves a continuing storyline where one book picks up right where the other book left off, and things go on. And when you get to 15, 16 books in that, people are a little tired. They'd like to see some conclusion in there.
Right. And I feel like it's the same thing with the Black. I can't drag this out for fucking ever. There's really only two things that can happen. So why don't we just cut to the chase? But the bottom line is I don't want to drag it out because it gets more ridiculous. I mean, how do you stop this? How do you stop that? And what happens next? Do we do this at a carnival? Do we do this at a football game, stadium? You can't keep upping the stakes like that because at some point it just gets ridiculous.
You mean I can't have the Black attack at the A&M UT game and just do loads of college football fans a favor?
Ow. Spoken like a true Florida nut job. Anyway,
Kentucky, but still.
Oh, even worse. You got even fewer teeth. Even fewer teeth. Anyway. You started that shit. I just want that on record.
I did.
I sank to your level quickly.
But I think with what you're talking about, both of these things, they're very genre specific. When you're writing in genres where the stakes get higher and higher, at some point you do have to conclude. You have to conclude arcs. And I think in some very, very long-running series, especially some fantasy series, you'll have mini arcs where maybe it's like 4 books and then it concludes, but the consequences of that conclusion drive the next 4 books. And then that concludes, and then they drive the next 4 books. But like you said, stuff has to come to a natural end. And if you are dealing with a monster that keeps getting bigger and bigger, if you're dealing with an alien invasion, at some point you can't keep running on that high. And you have to let your readers take a breath. You have to take a breath. Yeah,
you have to take a breath. And the problem is it gets harder and harder to take those breaths because you need that. People don't want a bridge book. Bridge books are awful and horrible, and you have to write them occasionally, and they suck. Or they usually do. And that's a sign, I think, that you're basically, if you have to create a bridge book to try and pivot, maybe it was better not to go. But at the same time, there's conclusions that need to happen for everybody's sake, including yours. And not just for bank, but also because I just really want to see how this ends. Actually, I've already written the ending, but we haven't written the ending yet. But the need to finish off the series is part, I'd rather go out to encore than people booing or walking out of the theater and going, oh, that was a piece of shit. kind of like what Terry was talking about. I don't want to feel that way when I walk away from the series. I want to walk away from the series feeling like I left I left nothing on the table. It ended the way it needed to end, which means it's a Paul E. Cooley book, and there's going to be casualties, but there have to be. Mm-hmm. And it's going to make sense for what we need to do and everything else. And then we move on from that. It'll be the end of the Black. And it is scary because this is my most popular series, and you don't want to fuck it up. You want to basically tie it up in a neat bow and give it to people. And some people are going to bitch no matter what you do. But you want to make something that most of the readers go, you know what, that was kind of cool. That was really cool. I like that.
And once you have something that is actually finished, then you have opportunities to do additional marketing, because then you can sell everything as, one huge, chunk. You have a completed series to sell. Mm-hmm. And there are those people who do not want to get into something unless they have an end and can work towards it.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to be Robert Jordan, where, you're still waiting for people to finish your books after you've died.
Yep.
Now, another thing for me to consider here is the reason I want to wrap this up and have it be satisfactory is I've dedicated 3 years of my life to this. That's a huge commitment for a project like this.
Yeah, I will give you that. Having dedicated... I don't know how many. Let me check the date on this. I want to say at least 10. I know. I don't.
You published Empire of Bones 10 years ago, the first book in it. I published The Black 10 years ago. Our first one. Dear God.
Yeah, and Secret World Chronicle, I was working on that with narrating and then helping to write. That was a 10-year thing because the copyright on the last book is 2018. And that's not including short stories, because that universe didn't necessarily close. Right. The events in the universe closed, and again, genre with superheroes, there are always more. People expect more. People expect, more problems to pop up.
No 10-year omnibus?
Yeah, not in print format anyway.
Gee, that's... You need a Kickstarter for that. That's a lot of paper.
Oh.
Dear God.
Oh. I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to think about it.
Those sprayed edges.
So let me flip it around.
Go for it.
Other than, us as writers talking about finishing this, as a consumer, what do you look for when something is completed? What turns you on? What turns you off about the process of finishing something that if it's there, you're happy. If it's not there, you're pissed. And let's go ahead and I'll start this off by using my wife's favorite one. That is George Martin's series on what was it, HBO. Showtime? I can't remember. And how they blew the last season and just wrecked everything that they'd done before.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how did they manage to do that?
I'm still a little bit in the loss on that, but mainly they just rushed it to a conclusion. They didn't pay attention to what the characters were, what they would be doing. They didn't give it the attention to detail that it needed. And anything that they could cut a corner on, they cut a corner on. Mm. The producers wanted to go do something else, and so they basically just said, chop, chop, but quick.
Yeah.
We've got Marvel to conquer. Fuck this place.
And then they never got that job. So it basically screwed them and everyone else, too.
Yeah. Brett says the biggest issue with GOT is that the last season moved way too fast and needed a season or two more. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, knowing that, I've never watched it. I haven't read the books. I haven't watched it because it's the time investment, and knowing that it's going to end poorly. There was another, what was I watching? Is it I think it was Penny Dreadful. The first 2 seasons were good.
Oh yeah. First 2 seasons were good.
And then I was told the 3rd season is awful, don't watch it. And I was like, you know what? I'm good ending where it is. And so I stopped. I was trying to think of what I had just finished watching that was a series ender, and it was Star Trek Discovery. Um, I loved it, mostly because it has some of my absolute favorite actors in it, and Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp are best space dads ever. I will fight anybody on that. Um, and also Sonequa Martin Green is I love her as an actress. And I thought everything was cast really well. But again, it's Star Trek. And I think similar to Game of Thrones, there's so many breadcrumbs that get laid down and there's so much character work that gets done. I personally would have wanted another season to better wrap things up and give characters their proper ending. That's me. If I enjoy a character or a set of characters, I want them to get what's coming to them, both in good and bad ways, to wrap up a story. And some series do that really well. Some don't. I maintain the ending to Breaking Bad.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Perfect. People get what they deserve. What else did I watch that had a near perfect ending? I don't remember.
Like the way Justified ended too.
Oh, Justified was a good one.
The Shield. My God, The Shield.
No, I haven't watched The Shield. What was it? Ozarks.
Haven't seen it.
Fantastic. Ozark had a proper endings that the characters deserved.
Right.
And I think I think a lot of times in Western storytelling, we all want happy endings. And if you read more global literature, especially stuff that's written by Asian authors, a lot of the cultivation stuff that I've read, or what is it? The Poppy War trilogy, Iron Widow. Actually, the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang is also a great example of a epic fantasy. And it's not a happy ending, but everything gets wrapped up very neatly so that there is no way you're ever going to return to that world.
Right.
It's 3 books. It's expansive. It's very character driven, and it gets just here's the book. Here's the series.
Right.
And it's hard. I think it's harder the bigger the universe that you have. And it's harder the more characters that you have in there.
I'd agree with that. It's much more difficult, and that was, trying to wrap up the Derelict Saga was the same kind of thing. I need to give the characters the endings they deserve. Now, we can quibble about the definition of ending, but there are people who are going to make it. And my people usually come out scarred to hell and gone mentally and physically in every way imaginable, and sometimes even spiritually, but they live. And usually that living is a good thing, even as beat up as they are. And I like to leave them with some hope. Those that survive. I like to leave them with some hope. I like to leave the reader with some hope. And sometimes I do write an ending that hopefully is both satisfactory and is one the characters deserve and also has what the story deserves. And hopefully I end a Derelict like that, and hopefully I'll end this one like that too. Because there's some characters that have been around since the first goddamn Black Book who show up and end up in 4 books. And then there's another character from Outbreak who ends up in quite a few books. So it's balancing all of that and figuring out how to make these people deal with what ultimately happens and them either survive or not is a big deal. And the characters that you're going to snuff that people like, that you like, you got to give them a big out. Got to give them a good out. They deserve a good death.
Well, that begs a question, because you've got 5 books. Terry's got 16. Are there characters that you're going to have to like retrieve from the edges of your storyverse to bring back? Will it make sense? Do you feel like you have to do that?
Unfortunately, the way the events are carrying out, the vast majority of the characters that are not currently present will have no way of getting back to the conclusion, because they're all stuck in the cluster and he's back at Earth. So they can't be there. It's going to be a really straightforward ending as far as that goes, but there's going to be, excuse me, I'm going to have to write a afterword, basically.
You have to write an epilogue.
I'm going to have to write an epilogue.
Oh no! Oh,
you're going to write it now. Are you going to write bonus epilogues that are only available through your newsletter or subscribing or something?
No, I'm not, because I'm not the publisher of this. So
that's right.
That would not be kosher for me to do so. But I have to write the epilogue, because part of satisfactorily ending this series is closing out what happens with the coup. And that's not going to happen overnight. They could take care of it on Earth, but it's present on all of the worlds of the Confederation. So it's going to take a year or more for them to deal with that and the final fallout. And so there's going to be an afterward to handle that.
I'm envisioning like a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back kind of epilogue, where those who need to resolve the coup are just going around and, are you so-and-so? Did you say this at the government? Yeah. And then going.
Yeah. A lot of curb stomping will happen.
I haven't written the epilogue for Extinction yet. And I have a bad feeling it's an epilogue that's going to be really like 4 more chapters, because it might get really ridiculously huge, and I just don't know how to do it yet. I could cheat and make it only about 3,000 words, but I think that would be a big problem, because there's a lot of shit that we got to talk about. But I have the same kind of thing. We'll see who survives. But there's some other stuff that has to happen, because you don't just do what I'm going to do and then have life go back to normal. It doesn't happen. It would not happen.
One does not simply nuke the black and go back to life as normal.
I do. Okay, so, Sandra, I appreciate this. Do like an epilogue that is the scroll text of, and so the Federation snuffed out the coup, and X character went on to being a rock star guitarist, and Y character retired to become an author. I mean, the author equivalent of the bonus end credit scenes is kind of cool, but again, because you're writing for since you're writing for a publisher and not necessarily for yourself, I don't know if you can make that happen, Terry. Paul, you totally could. I can just see it in 10 years later.
10 years later, the Black retired to become a reclusive writer, where he does cozy romances.
Brett said I would posit that most stories,
and cooking
do not need epilogues. Cooking stories do not need epilogues. I think a lot of stories do not need epilogues, and we get one anyway. Mm-hmm. But there are times where in Oceania, I don't think I have an actual proper quote-unquote epilogue. I think I just have another chapter, and that's how I end it.
If it wasn't for the time break, that's how I would play this. But a break of a year or two, that kind of requires a prologue, an epilogue, excuse me.
The black gets old and becomes the gray. Stop that. Stop that.
That was great. I think sometimes epilogues are not necessarily for the story, but they're often for your dedicated fans, because they may need a little more time to end the story and to kind of say goodbye to the story and the characters.
Yeah, and the characters.
Yeah.
You want to see where they ended up. Just imagine...
The black meets the white and they wipe each other out.
This is not a Star Trek episode. The if you had any kind of major event at port that rocked, a nation, shut down the port for upwards of a year or something like that, I'm pretty damn sure the world would change in a big, big hurry.
Mm-hmm.
I stole Chris's line and changed it, so it's only
Yeah.
fair that I put that up there.
The anti-black. Oh my God, that's so horrible.
It's like the Pope and the anti-Pope. Will there be a big explosion if they meet?
Now wait a minute. There was always one pope and two anti-popes, and it depends on who was who, depending on who you asked.
I've always been afraid of eating Italian and having the pesto and the antipesto somehow get mixed together, because it sounds like it's going to be a real problem.
It's pesto and antipasto, but now I sound like my mother, so we'll just keep going.
It's best to ignore Terry when it gets like this. Unfortunately, he's like this most of the time. Anywho, regardless of how I decide to end it, there are things I have to discuss, to comment upon, and I've kind of laid a lot of. There's been quite a bit of foreshadowing as to what that might be, but I have to go into it a little bit more, use my head, and try and prognosticate exactly what would happen. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Screw the dedicated fans; they make their own ideas up about what happens next.
They do. Trust me, they do. The Secret World Chronicle Facebook group has had people postulating, and I know there's fan fiction out there, and all I can do is go, great. I can't read it. And hey, and the funny thing is, in some cases, like, our group has worked on a sequel series. So I kind of know, who goes down the path of good, who goes down the path of really you're allying with them, and where stuff pops up, but it hasn't been like written, so it's not really canon. But, in terms of the author's mind, I know where stuff goes.
Right.
I just know that the guy named General Mixon explodes. That is canon.
Boom, baby, boom.
Right.
I already killed you in the black. I somehow managed to kill you again in Extinction, so I may kill you a third time in Extinction. I don't know how it's going to work, but it may just happen.
Sounds legit.
Seems legit.
Dude. You understand things, so we're just like, sir, can you lap? Somebody just threw a cat in my office. Can you? Yeah, I know. There you go.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So my cat has been picking up bad habits from Julius. So.
Just let the love begins.
I am Terry Mixon, son of Terry Mixon, who was son of Terry Mixon. Yeah, there we go. We get all three of them. There are a lot of plot lines that I got to close out, and of course I had to put Mr. Reed in here. Had to put Treat into Extinction because I just had to. So there's. I could have put him in Oceania. I just realized that now. Oh well.
And you didn't?
I didn't. There have been a couple of books where I've not been able to put him in, but I get him into most of them. But I gotta work that in. It won't be difficult. I left so many places for names of people to stick in there that it's just, we'll see how that works out by the time it's over with. I'm sure I'll miss one, and one of the beta readers is gonna like, hey Paul, you left a dumbass comment. What do you call me, a dumbass? No, the comment literally says dumbass. Name goes here. So there's
You do a find and.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's one I'll miss. I'll misspell dumbass or something like that and get dumbs, and it'll never find it until
Insert
it hits
big explosions here.
Exactly. I live in fear of that.
When I was putting comments in stories, I always prefaced it with 3 slashes. Doesn't matter what the comment was, what I was doing, and that way I would never mistakenly go hunting for something and not find it because the comment says 3 slashes. If I search for a single slash, I'll find it because there's not going to be any slashes in my story.
Right.
So my recommendation going forward is to do something simple like that rather than using, hey, dumbass. Put something that you're not going to mistake that's simple and straightforward and you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's called an array bracket.
Yeah.
That's what I use. I put an array bracket and then put some text in there, and I search for the array brackets. But still, I'm sure I'll miss one at some point because it's just the way it works. Even with find and replace, I'll put one more in there and forget about it. Let's see. What else? What else is there? See, you're lucky. You don't have to worry about the end of series final book artwork. You do have to worry about the cover copy, though.
Yep.
What kind of cover copy are you going to put on this puppy?
It's probably going to be just like the other books. You're not talking about the back blurb. You're talking about text on the front.
I'm talking about the back of the blurb. The back blurb.
Yeah, I will probably write it pretty much like the others, and I'll probably heighten it a little bit as far as adding the tension. In fact, I've already written the blurb and sent it off to them because they want the blurbs, because they'll put the book up for pre-order before it's even written. So they've already got it. I've already written it. It's done.
I've sold books on blurbs. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I sold my most popular book on a blurb. Yeah.
Well, so if
I just was wondering it now. The epic conclusion. Is it an epic conclusion, Terry?
It's going to be an epic conclusion.
Well, there you go. Why wouldn't you refer to it that in all the PR and marketing? Besides the fact that it's a very, very tired phrase.
That's exactly why I wouldn't do it.
All right, folks, do you have any questions for us idiots who are doing this? Dumb enough to do this? It's just time. It's just time to wrap it up. Time to wrap it up and move the fuck on.
I've been thinking about the next series, and I keep bouncing around about how I'm going to write it, what format it's going to be written in. And for a while, I was thinking I was going to do it in first person, but I don't think so. I think I'll stick with third person. But I'm still only going to use a single point of view character.
It'll be easier to write longer books with third person, I think.
Honestly, it'll be easier to write in general with just a single character.
Yes.
Because I've only written one novel that only had a single point of view character. And it was fast. It was easy to write because one of the things that I run into when I'm writing is, since I'm a linear writer, I'll switch a character and that's a roadblock. That's a speed bump that I've gone over. And it slows me down in writing the next chapter because I have to get myself in the right headspace. And it's not that I don't start doing it. I start doing it, just I'm slow at writing that next chapter, where I could be fast if I was just picking up next scene from same point of view character. And I do look forward to that. If it proves that the next series is a big success for me as a writer, which is a single point of view character, I may just stick with that forward going on, because I enjoyed writing the post-apocalyptic book that way. I wrote the entire novel in 23 days. It was just blindingly fast.
All the Suits books have one point of view. I mean, really, when you get down to it, there may be a couple of slices from other points of view, but mainly they're just one point of view. And that's how they're able to move as quickly as they do. I guess an Ancient Trap actually does have 2 points of view. But it is a lot faster than when you have like 12 different POV characters to try and keep track of.
You got to get yourself in a different headspace for every character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Antoine says, how do you decide how long a series should be?
In my case, the publisher decided.
Yeah. In your case. In my case, it's when I run out of story. I run out of story that I'm comfortable with. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And don't stay too long. You can only do the same shtick, so many times. And at some point, people get tired of it. Oh, we're trapped in a lab again. Oh, we're trapped in an underground parking garage. Oh, what could happen? Shit like that. They're going to know because they've seen all the other books. So why would you put yourself and them through that crap again?
So, the series 24.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be taking place in hour increments on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And in that first season, I think it was the first season, they had his daughter kidnapped 3 times. Somebody was kidnapped 3 times in a single 24-hour period.
In every season, somebody gets kidnapped. Every fucking season. It is the same shit over and over again. And at some point, it's just not worth it. The characters aren't interesting enough to overcome the stale plot.
At the same time, remember, we're writers. We have higher expectations for characters and
This
plots.
is very true. This is very true. And there's also a difference between looking at an actor and reading a character on the page. And there may be some things about that. There's special effects and stuff that are missing from the book. I get all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not.
But I also agree that 3 kidnappings in the space of 24 hours means you're a lousy parent. You need to keep better eyes on your kids. Just, damn. Anyway.
That kind of gets to a problem. If you can't break out of that, then you're just recycling yourself at that point. Xander says, how do you keep making story when the publisher is like, we want a 5-book series and your story might be like 3 books?
That's when you introduce plot complications.
Mm-hmm. And that when you elevate secondary characters so you can play with their plot lines. And you bring their plot lines up. And you make them more integral. Was it the Deborah Chester's fantasy fiction formula, which works for genres aside from fantasy? Towards the end of the book, she talks about editing and like doing the first round of edits. And one of the ways that she talks about editing is when you're writing the story, knowing your primary, secondary, and tertiary characters, as well as your primary, secondary, and tertiary storylines, so that if you need to cut something, you know the importance of what needs to be cut. But also, flip that, if you need to expand something, you need to know who can be elevated and expanded upon. If it's like, hey, this is popular, we need 2 more books out of this. Well, bring it up. Go for it.
That's kind of what happened to me with The Black. I left a plot hole on purpose, and everybody went,
oh no.
There's another one? Yeah, okay. So, I didn't know it was going to be popular enough to warrant another book, let alone 6 of them. Boy, this is true. Brett says, horror series never know when to go away, at least the film ones. You know what? It's because they're so fucking cheap to make, and you know it. You know it. The ones that will never go away are cheap to make. How much money does it take to make a 80s Halloween flick or Friday the 13th? You can make 20 of them in a year.
Yep. Or you go and start making a series.
Yeah, or you go and start making a series. Yep.
Yeah, they start making series.
How do you make 3 books into 5? Just make the characters suffer more. If you can't work out how it's simple, just think what could go wrong. Yeah, like Terry says, what could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? Terry, your 12-step program has really failed. You are literally covered in cats.
He's covered in floof.
This is Castor. He hardly ever climbs on me, so I am most happy to let him do this whenever he wants.
What you gonna do? What can I do?
Oh my God! Now that everybody has a cat but me, I feel left out. I feel lonesome.
Trust me, some of us are about to.
Are you lonesome tonight?
No, one knows that.
Oh my God. Well, if you've got a question or comment about this show, you can send an email to show@debrobotssociety.com. You can find me on Mastodon at Paul_E_Cooley at VYRSC.social. You can find us on Facebook at the Deb Robot Society Writing Community, where we mangle all the madness. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS Podcast, where we are live every Saturday at 3 p.m. CST on Saturdays. Subscribe and like so you know when we're live, and I fucked that up so bad. And if you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS Podcast and buymeacoffee.com/DRS Podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive live shows like the one coming up in about 10 minutes. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And our $10 patrons are Nate Cosby, Antoine Batts, Tony L. Joy, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Isabel Cushy, and Tim Niederreiter. Thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible. Wow, I got through that. We don't
Good
know
job.
how. Exactly. Good job. On that note, we are out of here. Have a fantastic weekend. And thank you for joining us and making this a good time. And we'll see y'all next week. Say bye.
Bye.
Yeah, there we go.